7:30 for our more exciting thing than the work session, which is our recognition of Officer of the Year. So we will keep to the schedule, right, everyone? All right. I'm gonna not, I'm gonna pretend I didn't hear any of that. Is there anything anyone would like to oh, actually, are we recording? We're all good? All right. Is there anything anyone would like to review on the regular agenda? All right, then we will go straight to meeting issues and updates.
Last night, the Green Space Advisory Commission met and went over a variety of topics, upcoming plans for EcoEd series, which with the Sustainability Commission, they actually have an event tonight at 7 o'clock at the library to kind of kick off the season. And then the next EcoEd will be in conjunction with Arbor Day, which is on April 17th at Southwest Park. There's going to be a tree planting in the afternoon, like around, I think Yvonne said like around 3. And then we'll do the Arbor Day ceremony about 5. And then after that, there will be a walk in like a tree walk in Southwest Park with a speaker. That should be a great event. Another thing that came up was NOMO that we did last year. And last year we did ordinance, an action by the council to suspend fines for that month. And I didn't know if we wanted to talk about doing that again, if that was something we wanted to put on a work session, just talk about it now, like how
Do
that.
we
should
need to
talk about that.
spend more time on that, or I mean, we can schedule it, but it also seems if people are willing to go ahead with the suspension of fines, we can just put that right on the agenda.
And
Let's just go straight to the agenda, then we can discuss it at that point in time.
okay,
Sorry, I looked at you when I said that and I meant to look over in that direction.
the agenda for a future session, is that what we're saying?
Yeah, so we'll, because if we
Yeah.
have to do a resolution,
Yeah.
then we'll do
That
another
sounds great.
resolution.
And then
Yeah.
as part of that, I wasn't sure if we wanted to continue to do it kind of 1 year at a time, or if we wanted to do a more overall, like in perpetuity kind of thing for that.
How about if staff makes us a recommendation on whether they'd like to do it annually
That'd
or
be great.
just do this for a longer period of time?
And then the Historic Preservation Commission is not meeting this month, so that is the end of my updates.
All right.
Nothing for me, Madam Mayor.
Hi,
Hi.
let's see, Sunday's open house, solar open house was a big hit. I would say there were at least 30 or so people in attendance. I spoke with Straight Up Solar. They were doing little analysis of people's homes if you gave them your address. And he said he talked to about a dozen people. So he ran the program and was able to let them know if solar was a viable solution for them. So there were lots of things to do there. You could meet with homeowners and see how they track their apps. Emerson Smith was there and he had his iPad with his data available, and Ameren, Missouri had a table, and you could talk about all the rebates that are available for making your homes more energy efficient. And they brought up a concept which I really hadn't realized we could do here in St. Louis, but sign up for community solar, which is where we would buy into a larger array of solar collection, and then we're able to use our power from that. So it was a really good event. A lot of fun. We had it at Olive and Oak, so that was awesome. And and we have information here about the solar rebate program. If anybody's interested with that, we can get that from our sustainability coordinator, Sean Finnegan. And then next, I attended the Pillars of the Community event that was held by the Alliance a couple weeks ago. That again was another well-attended event. It was at Eden Seminary up on the 2nd floor in their chapel. And for me, the best part was just learning about the 3 individual women that contributed to our community. And they did a unique presentation for each kind. We had Rebecca Now there. They did a reenactment or an interview with Irene Thomas, and then a high school student or middle school student did a presentation about Eleanor Rogers, and then Henrietta Ambrose and her husband Walter were honored in a video that been put together by Keita Quinn. So I learned a lot and would recommend anybody attending next year. That's all I have.
Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't have anything to report from commissions or boards. But I do want to announce that Thursday, March the 7th at 7 p.m. at the Recreation Complex, the Webster Rock Hill Ministries and the North Webster Neighborhood Coalition is sponsoring an informational meeting about destination Prop W, but Webster Road Prop W. So it starts at 7.
Great, thank you. Sarah,
No updates for me.
Mr. City Attorney. And Mr. Peterson.
Just a couple. So thanks to many members of the community, our webpage is now active with our scheduling matrix for all of you. And I think there's 140 choices, some of times, and we already had our first one come in today. So Councilmember Franklin and Mayor Arnold have been booked for Thursday night as well, on top of Councilmember Smith's meeting that we'll be attending. We also have the ice arena users, I guess I'll use that term.
The hockey
The hockey
community. is
community,
what I
there we go, hockey community to discuss Prop W with tomorrow night. So those are all available on our website. We also have a couple members of the charter board, which will be doing some short videos just on information on the charter, very, very short and grassrootsy. So that'll be coming out. So more educational information coming out. And I just wanted to highlight, we did talk with the Green Space Advisory Commission last night, and just to clarify for everyone on our commissions that while we have certainly advised them to be educational in their nature as a member of the commission, as they talk about it in that capacity, that they do have an individual right, obviously, to express their opinion, yes or no, unlike us as staff and such on matters of the but on the propositions and such. But wanted to make that clear for all of our commissions that they certainly can, being on our commissions does not take away their ability to talk about their own support or opposition to any measure.
All right, thank you. I know we have an agenda item, but anything else?
No, thank you.
All right, I just have a couple today. I visited the AP government class at Webster High School week before last. They're participating in something called the My Impact Challenge. Through the My Impact Challenge, they're doing individual projects that they will present publicly later this spring about improving your local community. And they range from how do we get people to make blankets out of their plastic trash bags to pedestrian safety and bikeability in our community, to how do you increase fluency in foreign language among our youth. They were incredibly fun to talk to, and we really just talked about projects the whole time. And since that time, every single one of you have been invited to join the AP government class, which meets Monday, Wednesday, Friday morning at 8:30. And if you were interested, please let me know and I will pass along contact information and you can get that scheduled with Brian Keller, who is the social studies curriculum coordinator for the district. And that includes, by the way, our city attorney and our city leadership staff. So those of you in the back row, anybody wants to talk to AP government, you're invited as well. And I will tell you, they are fun and they are very smart. So it's a good way to start your day. My second thing that I'll just mention is that Councilwoman Hickson Shepherd and I got to participate in the interviews for the vendors for our comprehensive plan, which were, I thought, really great. And so we have some really great choices, and it makes me excited about us starting this process because we have such great choices that are so fully committed to community engagement. So. All right, let's move ourselves along here. We will start with our topics. Our first topic is the Charter Review Advisory Board's recommendation on public engagement. Mel Johnson, who was the chair of the subcommittee on public engagement, is here with us today. It was emailed to you today, and you have a copy of it in front of you, which are the recommendations of the Charter Review Advisory Board Commission for public engagement sections. And it is something that is not currently in the charter. I think it might be the only thing that we've fully said, let's add something new to the charter, but
You
I'm-
just ruined my opening.
I did. Oh, okay. Everyone forget I had anything to say past. This is Mel Johnson.
Thank you for having me. I was an alternate member on the Charter Review Advisory Board, but I did serve as the chair of the subcommittee on public engagement. And so that was my opening. If this
Sorry.
is out of our 28, 29 recommendations, the only thing that we are recommending to add to the charter that's not currently there. This is based on the 9th edition of the Model City Charter, which came out in 2021. And that 9th edition stresses the importance of community engagement. In that an inclusive civic engagement, communities with inclusive civic engagement experience greater equity, display greater civic pride, and exhibit stronger civic responsibility. And this was kind of the last thing we tackled as part of this process. So we had already gone through this with each piece, and it was kind of a no-brainer that this should be something that is part of every department and every process that we do. And so what we did is just basically went to the Model City Charter in that you have in front of you, I believe, isn't that what you said?
Yeah,
Okay. So
everyone
there
does.
are 3 different sections, and we really just as a subcommittee started there and did some, collaboration, but really changed very little in the language that was already presented in the Model City Charter. So the first section, again, is just kind of explaining what the expectation is, and that's, again, I'm not going to read all of these, but just that it should be an integral part of trusted government and governance. Multiple channels should be used in that, and that collaboration with different local organizations and civic groups should always be consulted. And so that's kind of the what and outlines that. And then the section 2 is kind of the how, and just outlines different ways that we could do this. It doesn't necessarily say that we must, but council committees, departments, or administrative positions, public engagement commissions, community advisory boards, youth commissions, and participating budget processes, which we already have many of those, or at least have utilized those as part of many of our processes. And then the third section is just a guiding principles, which is basically focusing on equity and accountability, transparency, accessibility, collaboration, and then evaluation of those processes used. So again, we changed very little of the language in there and in the articles presented in the Model City Charter. There was much discussion that it was a little prescriptive, but we decided that the section 3 does really prescribe how that they outlines that, and we decided that was really the meat of it, and it needed to stay. So again, really just kind of, it was a no-brainer to us that this needs to be a part of the charter. You guys have done a great job kind of setting that standard as far as this council and the transparency in government and the participation process, the participation budget process. And again, while this group has done that, there's no expectation that the next group will. And so we felt it really important that the charter prescribe that. So questions?
Yes, questions.
I'm just curious about your personal, or maybe you can just describe the no votes on section 3.
Yeah, so there was a lot of discussion on whether that belonged or not. And my no vote was basically just a compromise, because it did make sense to me. If you look at the rest of the charter, this is a very lengthy article that, again, is very prescriptive when you look at the other ones. And so in our discussion, my vote was a compromise, and that these 2 things, these first 2 articles said what we needed to do and how we could do it. But again, those guiding principles really are the meat of it. And so that was, again, kind of my compromise, but as a member of the subcommittee, I certainly think that they all should be there.
It's a question, not saying this is what I actually support, but in reading all of the recommendations and how to move through these processes, you really think it needs to be part of the charter?
I do. I think that when you are all gone, there's nothing necessarily that says that we need to have all of these public engagement processes as far as, all the things you're doing now with Prop W, right? There's not anything that says that you must act this manner and get this feedback from the community, participate with the community, engage. There's no real protocols that say you must, right?
Yeah.
And so that's an expectation like of the communities. There's more civic pride, there's more, there's more trust in government when the community is engaging and a participant in the processes.
I guess when in reading it, all the different stakeholders that it lists, what happens if we miss one?
Well, it does definitely not define who they must be. It only gives you guidance on who they could be. And if you look at some of the list of who these are, we absolutely have some of these right now. And so again, yeah, if you miss them, the goal is to meet everyone where they are and as many people as you can. So again, this list here in section 2 is not all inclusive, but is meant to be to cover everyone.
Is the verbiage structured for that type of freedom that we have? To exclude, or we don't hit.
It
all
says
of the-
these structures can include, so that's the verbiage on that section 2. So no, it doesn't necessarily say we must have all of these different groups.
If anything, I
Maybe
think
they have
section
others.
3 is more prescriptive
For
because it
sure,
says
section
shall.
3 definitely,
Yeah,
because
that's-
again, those are the guiding principles. So yeah, those definitely more prescriptive. And so there was a lot of discussion on whether that belonged or not.
So if you don't mind, as liaison, I might make a comment on sort of the
Yeah,
discussion of
please.
that. So in the discussion, one of the things that all the other parts of the charter, and correct me if I'm wrong about the all statement here, the goal was to try and narrow things, not narrow them, kind of minimize the degree to which the charter ties the hands of government, except for the very basic functions. And we're going to get to later whether we want to have a in-depth discussion about naming boards and commissions, naming department structure and whether that belongs in this charter. This really, to me, was the one place that there was really an expansion of and a much more detailed description of what might happen that has been added to the charter. And that's why I know at least the other two, at least Joe and Jeannie were very specific about that's why they didn't vote for this, is that they didn't want that level of detail in the charter itself. Is that a fair statement?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And again, the majority of the board thought that needed to be there because
Yeah.
it really is the meat of it and prescribes what is expected.
Could you do some kind of situation where you had in the charter, like number 1, and then you had some kind of policy or some other kind of document that had the meat of it, then married, like,
Yeah, so that
we-
was part of the discussion is, if it's in the charter, you still have to have an ordinance to implement. Am I wrong
Well,
on that?
it depends, and we can defer to Neil a little bit. I think if you had just like 1 or 1 and 2, you'd probably want either a policy or an ordinance to do number 3.
Right, so that was the
Um,
discussion that you could put that there instead, but not really where we ended up.
You could do a hybrid, and you could, again, if you did 1, you would certainly want to make clear through an ordinance or a written policy, what that would mean. You can define it in those ways as well, but you can do just 1 and not do 2 and 3.
and if we wanted to go with all 3, could this be one question on a ballot?
Could be, because it'd be 1 whole section.
One section.
Yeah, that was our intent and the proposal was that it is one whole section together. We voted on it obviously separately and had differing results on that, but the final result was that it would be all one question on a ballot as one section. Okay.
And it would simply say to add this, and so you would have all of this language
Together.
as one section.
Mhm.
But that means you'd be voting on the whole thing, that you wouldn't be parting it into, should we add this and then this and then this, which you really couldn't do because you might pass number 3 but not pass 1 and 2.
Yeah.
So,
That would be bad.
Strange things can happen.
So council needs to decide before we put on the ballot what we want
Mhm.
that to look like.
I see number one is what, then 2, 3 is how we want to do it.
I want us to discuss this, but does anyone have other questions for Mel? Because I also don't want to make her stand there while we're
Oh,
discussing.
that's
if there-
fine. I have new shoes on.
Okay, good. So, all right, then we'll just, feel free to sit and we'll call you back if we need questions as we discuss, or you can stay there.
I'm
And
fine.
be
I'm gonna stay
ready.
Here, I'm ready.
All right. Other thoughts?
Well, I mean, I was thinking 3 was too prescriptive. And then I started looking at it and I'm going, whoa. You could skew it the other way. If you don't have these on here, they could be intentionally skewed the other way at some other time.
Skewed, would you just
La-
elaborate a little bit for me?
Just, I'm trying to think of one that city officials should conduct continual public outreach to bring in new voices. I mean, it could potentially be city officials could narrow the voices. You know, if we didn't adopt these principles, you could very well, you know, someday in an Orwellian world, go the other direction.
I get you. Other thoughts? Okay, while you all are thinking, I'll add, nope, Sarah looked like she was gonna speak. So I am sort of where Emerson is. I certainly think 1 definitely needs to go in the charter. I could even be convinced 2 should, because of it, the can word makes me more comfortable. And we are doing some of those, and I think it does set a good, it's a good range of things for us to think about. Although again, I'm a little hesitant to be that specific in the charter. And number 3, I think needs to go in an ordinance. An ordinance is still hard to change. You have to have a public vote that says you're against political engagement, or public engagement. And that, I'm hard pressed to see a lot of future council members doing that, even if that's what they want. And this just, the level of detail is a little much for me, although I do understand why the recommendation is what it is from the Charter Review Advisory Board.
Yeah, because number 2 is asking for a youth commission, community advisory boards, public engagement commission,
It's not asking for them though, it's
Yeah,
suggesting.
suggesting,
like-
yeah.
but they're written and they're in there. We'll be
And
almost
we could
fine.
adjust that, right? Like we could change the word board to commission. We could take out youth commissions. We can adjust.
Yeah,
this.
we can adjust it, yeah. Which I'm not against the youth commission, but I'm saying we have to, what is it, their purpose? And who would that
I
be?
think it's just an example.
Well, you don't want to put an example in the charter, would you?
Well, I don't know, just example as much as, to me, it's a little bit aspirational, like
Yeah.
this is,
Like, we don't
reminds
have that
us that
now,
this
but
is, these
maybe-
are the kinds of groups that need to be included that maybe aren't.
Yeah, and I see that 1 through
Mhm.
6 be part of 3.
I guess from my perspective, if we were trying to trim it, I would maybe leave out section 2, but I think section 3 is actually the important part that maybe should be in the charter. Because I feel like those are guidelines that we would espouse anyway, as a group today. And that we would kind of hope for in the future. I think they're important to kind of keep in mind, and frankly, it could be more prescriptive than it is. I don't know. I think the way that it's worded is appropriate for the charter. In
Okay.
section 3 is what I'm
It
talking about.
is, you say?
I think it is.
Mhm. So was one of our objectives to take out procedures or out of the charter? You know, like they have for all the different departments?
That recommendation came from staff to try and somehow, what's happened over time is there've been things added once
Mhm.
in a while. There are things that no longer exist that are still in the charter administratively. And so the design there was, I think, more to streamline and give more flexibility, especially as things change over time.
Okay.
I really like this idea. I like the concept of it. I don't think it belongs in a charter, any of the three. And the reason I don't is because anytime we pass an ordinance and it is challenged, it is going to be a debate whether now, not only as to the substance of the ordinance, but also whether we had sufficient engagement, I believe, in order to satisfy our own charter. So I'm a little concerned about the obligations and burdens we are putting on the city in order to satisfy this new obligation. I think we do a good job. I think this could be a policy going forward. But I am a little worried about putting it as a law.
Naturally, I'm gonna ask Neil. Do you agree? I'm, not that I don't believe you, I'm just curious.
So I think that the concept, I certainly understand the concept and agree with the concept. I don't know that, thank you, I don't know that putting it in the charter is the best approach because of the limitations it creates. But if there is a need to put it in the charter, then I think you would accomplish what you need to do to give yourself structure by just including subsection 1. To David's comment, I hadn't thought of that, and I think that that's an excellent point to consider. Are you creating a means for people to challenge your authority as a council by saying you didn't do enough fundamental work in order to pass an ordinance? Is this creating an additional layer? And that's an interesting question. I don't know the answer. I haven't seen that happen. But I think you want to give council the opportunity as a council then to make decisions about how they would implement it. And again, I think that functionally is going to change over time. So if you're writing any kind of a tool like a constitution or a charter, you want to make it as useful over time as you can. And frankly, those tend to be a little broader in the language rather than narrower in the language. And if you just did subsection 1, you might need a little bit of tailoring there. But if you did just section number 1, you could give yourself a mandate to create the structure, but then leave it up to council as to what that structure would then look like.
Or the city
And-
manager,
or
which
the
is
city-
kind of what is, you know,
I would be in favor of subsection 1 if we can eliminate the second and third paragraphs. Let's just- I mean,
Second and third paragraph?
Yeah, so it just would say the city shall treat public engagement as an ongoing integral part of effective and trusted governance. It's setting forth that we believe that public engagement is important, that the city, and then we could do a policy that goes along with it. But anything more than that, I think it is adding, and I understand the purpose of it, right? I understand the additional onus or the different additional burden, like we should be doing this. But there are certain times in situations that I'm sure can be conceived that it might not be appropriate, or it might not be time, like from a time perspective. And I just worry about saying, well, we didn't have sufficient public engagement, so therefore the ordinance is now void.
So I guess I see the flip side of that, which is that as a soon-to-be member of the public, I would like the ability to challenge if I don't feel like there's been sufficient public engagement in the future. Like, I mean, I
You're gonna
think,
lose.
I mean, I'm just saying, like, I don't disagree with that being an expectation that public engagement is attempted, or it's at least a goal.
Yeah. The difference though is, Sarah, again, like if you were to challenge it currently and say there's not enough public engagement, you would lose. I don't think that we have a requirement except for what's required by state law or our own ordinance or our own charter currently. But if we add this, I think there's a question as to what this all means. And so it'd be litigated and be determined as to what actually was sufficient public engagement in order to meet this threshold.
I mean, would we consider a public hearing, public engagement?
But we don't want to set ourselves up to have a public hearing for every ordinance that we,
Well, for me, like,
Consider.
that multi-channel is kind of a key piece of it, because sometimes we have public hearings, sometimes we do
Right.
other things. But for me, that kind of middle paragraph, that makes me, think about the kind of outdated requirement to post things, paper copies of things on bulletin board. I feel like
Yeah.
this is a replacement for that, like bringing it into the now and saying like, we're not gonna make you post a piece of paper at the library, but we're expecting you to reach out to the public in a variety of ways to meet them where they are. So I don't feel like it's so much prescriptive as like a replace, like updating that kind of language. But to your question about whether it could be challenged, since this is from model city charter, do we have examples of other cities that have this in their charter and how long they've been there with no issue?
We have none because there are none that are known of. So this was just adopted in 2021, and as far as we know, we would be the first municipality considering it.
And I looked around and I can't find anyone that's adopted it. At least I can't find it, so.
I mean, I am gonna go back to the public hearing thing, because what if that is the only thing that we have? Can we count that as public engagement if it were to be challenged?
I mean,
You
it
know.
counts, but is it sufficient?
I would say
Not
it's-
be,
because
but I'm just
yeah,
saying,
I
is
think
it?
everything counts. I mean, from social media posts to public hearings. But you're right. What's our,
It is multimodal, right? Because we
Right.
put an ad in the paper and we have. it
and there's a
in the
physical
meeting and there's a-
sign
Right,
yeah.
posted, yeah.
But not,
This
see,
is
but
gonna
you're,
get
you're getting into the
complicated.
exactly
It
the
gets
issues that,
complicated.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly the issues that I worry
Yeah,
about, which
right.
is now we're debating whether we had sufficient public engagement rather than debating or trying to win our argument that the ordinance was adequately tailored or narrowly tailored, properly passed.
Madam Mayor, if I may.
Please.
Mechanically, I think what would happen is if you wrote it broadly and then adopted either an ordinance or a policy after that, in order to lay it out, you will have defined what is the sufficient base. And so again, I think to say nothing, to do nothing would be a problem. But to outline something,
Mhm.
I think that answers the question. And so you've allowed a mechanical approach that someone could say, okay, here's what this council determined was appropriate. But it also gives future councils the opportunity to weigh in on that as well.
So it's not self-enforcing.
It's not
you would have the
self-enforcing,
Enforcing
right,
mechanism.
Right.
Very interesting.
One other thought I had on section 3 is it is pretty lengthy, but it is also, I mean, I think it's important. I wonder if we could take the bold headers and put those in the charter. You know, like these are the principles that are important and then flesh out more of it in an ordinance as some kind of a compromise between including the meat, but not having the bulk.
Yeah, I mean, like,
I'm just concerned mixing up the what and the how. And I think that's what we was trying to pull away from the old charter, getting that stuff out of the charter. So we just,
There is how in the charter. It may
Oh.
not, I mean, like, I don't know. I don't think it's like, we're not, this isn't so far off the norm of what's already in the charter that it wouldn't fit, right? I mean, and I also trust our commission who spent so much time like reviewing this and discussing it. Like, it feels important to them. That matters to me too.
what I think is it is important, but like I say, I think number one is the most important item. And I can see one kind of modified with some of the information in two. That's part of the charter. This is what we are doing to have public engagement. But when you get down to how we're going to do it, I don't think that needs to be part of the charter.
where do we need to be at the end of this work session?
Well, you know, we don't have we're not under the gun time wise, so I
Okay.
think we don't have to be anywhere in particular. I think though, personally, I'd like us to decide whether we want to continue further, see if there's some more research that needs to be done about some of the questions that maybe David's raised. It's not a yes or no right now, but it is we have to agree collectively what our next steps.
If and when we decide what needs to be in the charter, the rest of it, we can put in some type of ordinance to get that going right away. Not to wait for, because that, whenever we're gonna put something else back on the ballot, it might be November or next April or whatever. So that's, just like the strategic plan, we adopted those principles of how we're gonna.
Yeah, a lot of this, it seems like we've already adopted effectively and we operate already, but I understand the importance of making sure it continues, so I get that.
Yeah.
I just wonder if the charter's the effective way of doing that.
More verbiage in our procedures or policies. I think this is where this belongs, but not all of that belongs in the charter. Or should go in the charter.
I just wanted to make a quick comment in response to Sarah. If we were to reject this or to revise it, I don't think that means we distrust our board and commissions. It's just a matter of having everyone at the table and trying to come to the best resolution, especially for a document that is the governing body document of this municipality. So I take a little bit of an issue with the idea that merely because if we were to reject this or revise it, that we are not trusting our board and commission.
Eric, anywhere in the finance about the department heads participating in the budget process? Is there any verbiage in that?
In terms of engagement or?
Yeah, because I know we are engaging the department
so
heads for the budget process.
The budget process within the charter is wholly defined as a city manager to council process. So it's understood. You're receiving a budget that is the culmination of the city manager's process of recommendations. I think the administration here has expanded that, so you get a fuller picture of nuance and understanding and, expertise from folks into that
Well, in
process.
some ways, the practice has turned it into a
Sure.
public engagement process
Absolutely.
more.
Right.
By having directors speak in a public meeting.
I mean, there are certainly to the budget process and to many of our financial processes, I wouldn't go back to even procurement, what we talked about with potential of changing our policies for equity lenses and other things. I'm just reminded of the reason we see some of these things is power concedes nothing without demand. And it's very true, right? That it could be 3 years from now that the whole administration and this council could look wholly different, and the values of equity, the values of sustainability could be long gone from how we govern ourselves here. And so there's some wisdom in how we set up longer term guardrails towards the values and visions we have. But I don't want to make a value statement about what goes in the charter, just other than it's important in all of our processes when we look at staff, what are we required to do within those confines of the charter? And then where is the places of flexibility to help the city manage it the best?
All right, so let's see if I can summarize where we are. This is going to be quite the task. It seems to me that everyone, in principle at least, is in favor of public engagement. And we have a very minimalist approach to putting in the charter and all the way to the other end of the spectrum, everything here. So my question to you, each of you, is where would you like us to go next? I will start by adding one thing, and that is I would like a little bit more research into what is, if we adopted the entirety of this, is David correct? I don't know if that's the right word. I don't know. Have we set ourselves up to be tested in ways that we aren't right now? And does that change if we do it in an ordinance versus in the charter? I mean, because I think that matters too. That would be my question going forward. And I'd like personally for us to continue to discuss this, but I would like to know what the rest of you think. Because normally I don't go first because that usually sets stuff up, but you all had blank faces.
No, I think public engagement in some form should go under the charter, but not as detailed, I guess, as this. Like I said, I can see number 1 and number 2 somewhat being combined, but and just following up with the rest of the information as an ordinance, I think that gives us direction how we should perform as a council. The community can say, hey, you didn't do this, this, and this with this public engagement.
I mean, I'm definitely in favor of public engagement. It would be my opinion that none of these threes are passed by council, but in the event that it were, I would just like section 1 truncated down. Now, I will play just devil's advocate with myself and say, from a democratic principle, small d democratic principle, if there is not public engagement before a law is passed, should that law actually be passed? I mean, it's a fair question to ask. So, I mean, but I think you hold your representatives and elected officials accountable to that. And by doing a policy, I think we can do that without creating additional overarching legal burdens for us.
Madam Mayor, one other thing mechanically regarding the research. I suspect because it's a relatively new concept, that there probably isn't much in the way of case law that will explain how these things can be tested. So again, I'm happy to do the research. I think we're going to sort of devolve into a question of the statutory interpretation and what the words should mean and what the word shall mean,
Okay.
what the word may mean, and all of that sort of thing. But I'm not sure we'll find anything, but I'm happy to look.
Okay.
Go back to National Civic League and ask them if that question. And ask them if that question had come up and if they can, maybe they've already considered it and have some more insight into it.
Perhaps,
Yeah,
I
and
love
they-
not reinventing wheels.
And they, Joe Dugan's note does say that would you like to answer this?
He did reach out and that was just confirmation though that there was no one.
Right.
Well,
So that question hasn't been asked
but
to our
it's
knowledge.
good to know that we can reach out and get a response, so that's valuable. I mean, I'm in favor of putting something in. I have not made my mind up on like how, where on the spectrum I would
Yeah.
fall, at least one, possibly two or three. I mean, that's not super vague. That is super vague, but I would like to consider it. I think it's important to have it in the charter in some manner. And I really appreciate the time that Crab's put together in this really thoughtful, and well-considered, recommendation. So I'd like to see something in there. And so, yeah, to continue the discussions, and curious to hear what we find out on the research.
Then just remember that Joe did put in there that he feels is overly prescriptive.
But he also was on the losing side of the vote.
Man of,
Sarah, do you want to add anything more?
No, I mean, I think it's been said. I just, I definitely think it's important to be included and I don't think it's overly prescriptive.
Yeah, anything else you would like to add?
I do agree with each section. I do feel like it's maybe a little too detailed and it could be edited down to allow for some other solutions to how to coordinate engagement or how to define the principles. So I would just edit it down. Some of the small type.
Okay. All right, so I can't summarize that because that's all over the place. So what I think I'm gonna do with the council's approval is suggest that those of us who, now have some new things to think about, spend some time thinking about those. Neil will get whatever limited information he can for us, and we will revisit this hopefully relatively soon and hopefully come to a place that that we can agree on how to move forward. And, I stole some of your language. Emily stole some of mine, which was to say, thank you, because I know that people worked hard and, even though you all didn't make many changes from the model charter, I know that there was a very robust discussion about this and what should and shouldn't happen. And I'm really grateful because it's like everything else the Charter Review Advisory Board did, and that is take it very seriously and very thoughtfully and delved really deeply. So thank you for that. We're going to get somewhere. We're just not there yet.
Appreciate you having me, and just a final note that your discussion is very similar and reflective to what we discussed. So I understand all of the hesitation and, going back to my personal final vote, again, that was kind of a compromise. So understand all of the reservations on some of that detailed language. So
Great, thank you. Yeah.
Thank you very
you.
much.
Madam Mayor, if I just briefly on that, National Civic League does have some other resources that are helpful, including their civic engagement scorecard. So we've reached out just on a couple other things. I'll see if any of their members have, or the staff members have anything that may help your
Okay.
conversation.
Sounds good. All right, our other topic for today is, I think, an easy one, knock on wood, and that is yours, Katie.
Yes, it's been a tradition where during the summer months, the council usually cancels one of the summer meetings. And of course, it's always your decision, but staff's preference would be July 16th. And if you're amenable to that date, then we can make note of it so we can know when to advertise public hearings and things like that. And get the word out.
And I will just take this opportunity to say for anybody in the public who might be listening is that when we have a meeting, there are many, many staff hours that go into our meeting. And so we typically do this so that staff can find a window of vacation time or just catch up with everything else they're doing time and not have to worry about us for one meeting cycle. Does anyone have any problem with that particular date?
Not me.
All right, and I think we give staff enough lead time to make some planning. So in the absence of any disagreement, we'll go ahead and take that date off the calendar.
Thank you.
All right, we have no appointments to boards and commissions tonight. And so we will then take a few minutes. We have a little bit of extra time, but let's be back here promptly at 7:30. We have important business to conduct right then and for the rest of the evening, but let's get ourselves back right at 7:30, please. All right, thank you. That's so quiet, so fast. All right, we're recording. Okay. Welcome to the regular meeting of the City Council for March 5th. We welcome questions, ideas, comments from persons in attendance. Members of the audience may, however, comment only when recognized by the mayor. We ask that comments be limited to 3 minutes in order to complete the agenda within a reasonable time. There are cards over there on the table. If you'd like to make a public comment, please do go ahead and fill that out. I have a feeling today we're mostly here for celebrations because we've got some great celebrations and honors to bestow. So thank you all for coming here to be a part of that. We're going to have the roll call and then we will get that right underway.
Mayor Arnold,
Here.
Councilmember Bliss. Here. Councilmember Franklin.
Here.
Councilmember Smith.
Here.
Councilmember Alexander is absent. Councilmember Richardson.
Here.
Councilmember Hickson Shepherd.
Here.
Okay, I'm going to do this with a handheld mic because you're going to have to come up and join me right away. You can stay right. I'll come back down to you. Unless, do we want to be really, really tall? We're good. I mean, up on the steps. That's what there we go now. Okay. So we are very pleased tonight to be here to recognize our Officer of the Year, Andrew Travolante, who has, as I understand, this is your second chief's commendation. That's what I meant. Commendation. That's all about me not being able to speak the English language, nothing about you. So I'm going to read the proclamation and then we'll do a couple other things to honor you. All right. Whereas Police Officer Andrew Travolante has been chosen Officer of the Year for 2023, and he represents the Webster Groves Police Department's core values of community policing in a positive and professional manner. Andrew represented the department at the National Night Out, the Special Olympics Torch Run, and at community parades throughout the St. Louis area. And whereas Andrew carried a workload that included 20 weeks as a field training officer, all while continuing his special enforcement details, which included DWI enforcement, where he is recognized as being the department's top DWI enforcement officer, hazardous moving motor vehicle enforcement, and the Click It or Ticket campaign. And whereas even with his busy work schedule, Andrew was also able to further his education by graduating from Webster University with a master's degree in criminal justice administration. And whereas Andrew has displayed a high level of compassion, dedication, and professionalism through his unwavering commitment to this community and has an excellent performance record. Now, therefore, I, Laura Arnold, Mayor of the City of Webster Groves, on behalf of the entire City Council, wish to thank and honor Police Officer Andrew Travolante for his exemplary service to our community, which has made Webster Groves a safer place to live, and do hereby proclaim Monday, March 11th, as Andrew Travolante Day in the City of Webster Groves. So I forgot to speak in the microphone. We'll let Acting Chief Perks make some presentations and then we'll take a picture with council as well as with you, if that's all right. So I'm going to invite you up and hand over the microphone.
All right. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Appreciate that. Yes, ma'am. Please. Thank you. Thank you. All right. First of all, thank you all for being here to celebrate with Andrew and to celebrate with us, the mayor, the council. We all appreciate this very much. When I put out the notice this year to nominate officers of the year, we had a stiff group of officers, a great competition this year. We had 5 officers nominated this year for Officer of the Year, and all of them were deserving of recognition for that. The field was tough this year. And when the voting came down, it was an overwhelming vote for Andrew, obviously per the proclamation. I'm not going to read the commendation. If I can open it. Because the language in the proclamation or in the commendation is the exact language in the proclamation because I gave it to the city for the proclamation. But this is the police department's commendation to Andrew for his exemplary performance for 2023. So Andrew, congratulations for that. And I'm going to do a little something for you here real quick. So you're going to hold that. And in recognition of that, the commendation is a green bar that officers get to wear on their uniform. Since this is Andrew's second commendation from the chief's office, this is a green bar with a gold star on it. So he'll get to replace this green bar with this one on it, which has a gold star on it, recognizing his second award. So that's first. Yeah. There we go. All right, Andrew. And on behalf of the police department, we would definitely like to recognize you for the service that you provided to this community for 2023. So Police Officer of the Year awarded to Officer Andrew Travagliante for exemplary service to the community of Webster Groves, Missouri, 2023.
Here, I'm gonna put it over here, so I'll hold this next.
Where's the commendation paperwork?
It's right here.
There we go. I'll hold that for you.
All right.
Here's my question. Who's gonna ride a motorcycle with brakes?
That's a good question.
Think about that, kid.
So the Officer of the Year gets to ride in their own car in the parade, and so he always beats the motorcycles in the 4th of July parade.
I'm sorry, that's your problem, Chief. And thank you. I don't know if you heard, but Andrew right away said, we'll figure something out. See, that's why he's Police Officer of the Year. He's already figuring it out. All right, thank you very much. We'll give you all of your. And I believe, do you want to at least recognize?
Well, we're gonna go with recognize my mother. Stand up. Okay, you can just raise your hand. My sister here. A sister here. Lovely fiance, Emily. Family friend Jeff, and I wouldn't be here with us without my squad mates, my great sergeant. Raise your hand. Raise your hand. Then Whitcutter, Rivera, and everyone else. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. I promised him he didn't have to talk, but it just didn't seem appropriate not to acknowledge the people who support all of our police officers in the job they do, because we know it's a challenge. So thank you all. I know that you have some areas downstairs for some more picture taking. So none of us will be offended if those who are here to honor Andrew decided that it was time to go get your picture taken. Please go right ahead and do that, because we have more celebrating to do, which is exciting. Yeah, you got anything else? We're all good, right?
Yes,
All
ma'am.
right.
Thank you.
All right. You guys want to just hang out up here? Because we're going to just wait a minute. Not everybody. I think there's still a pretty good crowd here, and that's good because we have two more celebrations here, and they're all great celebrations for tonight. So we next are going to celebrate the Rotary Club, and what we'll do is I'll have one of you come accept the proclamation, but I see a lot of Rotarians here. So we will take a group picture with all of you once we've done the proclamation. So who wants to come up here and be? I think you're pretty familiar with this process. All right, here we go. Whereas the Rotary Club of Webster Groves was chartered on February 17th, 1924, and became a member of Rotary International on March 15th, 1924, making it the oldest in St. Louis County and the second oldest in St. Louis. And the Rotary Club of Webster Groves is celebrating 100 years of exceptional community and international service. And whereas the club is part of a global network of friends, leaders, and problem solvers who see a world where people unite and take action to create lasting change in themselves, their communities, and across the globe, with Rotary International mantra of service above self, which contributes to the club motto of Webster Groves, the city of beautiful trees, where roots of community service run very deep. And whereas the club is extremely proud of its volunteerism and contributions to community involvement and improvement and bringing the community together with its events, and the club has planted thousands of trees in the city, improved trails and playgrounds on Make a Difference Day and Arbor Day, and through the Century Oaks Project. The club is facilitating the planting of 100 oak saplings in Webster Groves, born from designated legacy oaks. In the fall of 2024, for the improvement of the quality of life and enjoyment of future generations. And whereas the club also works to empower youth to excel by sponsoring an Interact Club at Webster Groves High School, bestowing hundreds of student scholarships for advanced education, sponsoring Cub Scout Pack 314 and Boy Scout Troop 314. Now, therefore, I, Laura Arnold, Mayor of the City of Webster Groves, on behalf of the entire City Council, wish to honor and congratulate the Rotary Club of Webster Groves on their 100th year anniversary, and do hereby proclaim Friday, March 15th, 2024, as Rotary Club of Webster Groves Day in the City of Webster Groves. Okay, all the Rotarians, please join us. Then you need to stand right here. Two-time president needs to go right here in the middle. I'm gonna slide back here.
What an honor.
I look forward to celebrating you all. And we've got one more great celebration. I feel a little bit like a game show host that I'm giving out prizes. And so let's say that this is the best we've saved. How about that? The big one. All right. Would you like to join me, please, Mr. Weber? Oh, yeah. She's not coming though. All right. Well, we are going to read this one as well. The City of Webster Groves thanks and honors Bob Weber for his longstanding contributions to our community, which includes his 31 years at Weber's Front Row, his support of the Community Days Parade, local athletic teams, new businesses, his service on the Old Orchard Business District Advisory Commission, the Old Orchard Merchant and Business Association, and his involvement in the Gazebo Music Series. On behalf of the mayor and city council, we thank you for providing a family-friendly home away from home with your restaurant, and for all you have done to truly make Webster Groves a great place to live. And do hereby proclaim Friday, March 8th, 2024, Bob Weber Day in the City of Webster Groves. Congratulations. Yes, Now we got to get back to regular business. Oh, thank you all for coming. See you.
Everybody can leave.
Yep.
No, you're staying.
All right then. Yeah. Put my agenda up here. That's where it went. Okay, do we have any remarks from the community or visitors? I do not have any cards. If you are online and would like to make a public comment or comment from the community, please use the raise your hand function. All right, we are gonna move on then to our, is there any new business that anyone would like to raise tonight?
No, Mayor.
Okay, then,
Sorry, Madam Mayor, I'm going to actually really shock the world there. I forgot to mention, next meeting, our Chamber of Commerce Director, the new director, is going to be with us in the work session. So please, as you think about our strategic plan, some of the new things in business and economic development, think of some questions to ask about partnerships and possibilities looking ahead to next meeting.
thank you very much. Appreciate that. All right, unfinished business. Councilmember Hickson Shepherd, could you call for the third reading of Bill number 9246, please?
Yes, Mayor, I'd like to call for the third reading of bill number 9246.
Second. Bill 9246, third and final reading. An ordinance authorizing the city manager to execute on behalf of the city of Webster Groves a permanent sidewalk easement to the St. Louis County Department of Transportation and Public Works related to a portion of property located by 8180 Big Bend Boulevard associated with federal project number STP-5537, parent 624N parent.
Is there any discussion? All right, let's go ahead and vote, please.
Councilmember Bliss.
Yes.
Councilmember Franklin.
Yes.
Councilmember Smith.
Yes.
Councilmember Richardson.
Yes.
Councilmember Hickson Shepherd.
Yes.
Mayor Arnold.
Yes. All right, moving on to new business. Councilmember Franklin, could you call for the first and second reading of Bill number 9247, please?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I'd like to call for the first and second reading of Bill number 9247.
Second.
Bill 9247, first reading. An ordinance defining the pay grades of the classified and unclassified service of the city of Webster Groves, fixing the compensation for employees in said classifications, and repealing ordinance number 9242.
Do we have any questions, comments? All right, we'll take the second reading then, please.
Bill 9247, second reading. An ordinance defining the pay grades of the classified and unclassified service of the city of Webster Groves, fixing the compensation for employees in said classifications, and repealing ordinance number 9242.
Thank you. Is there anything anyone would like to remove from the consent agenda? All right, Councilmember Bliss, could you call for its approval, please?
Yes, Mayor, I'd like to call for the approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
Councilmember Franklin.
Yes.
Councilmember Smith.
Yes.
Councilmember Richardson.
Yes.
Councilmember Hickson Shepherd.
Yes.
Mayor Arnold.
Yes.
Councilmember Bliss.
Yes.
All right, we have made no appointments to boards and commissions. I do not believe we have a closed session of any kind. And so we will call this meeting adjourned, and please keep close eye on your email as we have short timeframes on some of these Prop W scheduling. So keep looking in case you are called upon to help the public understand more about Prop W.
Can I suggest we tell Dr. Peoples that your meeting went on until 10 p.m.?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that.
All right. Thank you all very much.